Good evening. Thank you for joining us on the War Diary. On the 384th day of the war, here are the main highlights of the day at 7 p.m. Beirut time. We begin with the situation in Lebanon. 2 people were killed in an Israeli drone strike on a car on the Kahale Araya road. In the afternoon, Israeli warplanes targeted Jerd Alamat in Jbeil district. In the capital, clouds of smoke are still rising from the site of an overnight Israeli strike in the Har Tahrek area in the southern suburbs of Beirut. 6 Israeli airstrikes targeted the suburb overnight, one of which completely destroyed a residential complex in the vicinity of Al-Laylaki. Moving on to the situation in the south. Israeli warplanes attacked a house in Yatar. While rescue teams were attempting to save the injured, Israel attacked the same place again, injuring 2 paramedics. An Israeli airstrike targeted the outskirts of Ankun and Juwaya and Tyre. A series of Israeli raids were recorded on multiple villages, including Taibe, Der Sarien, and Fron. A number of residential buildings and shops were destroyed after hostile Israeli warplanes targeted them with airstrikes in Iqlim al-Tafah. 1 person was killed and another wounded in an Israeli airstrike on a motorcycle in Atharat Tyre. Last night's Israeli airstrike on the town of Beresh Qalawi resulted in the death of the head of the municipality, Hassan Rimaiti. At dawn, the Israeli aircraft targeted the headquarters of the health authority in the town of Al-Bazuriya, resulting in injuries. In the afternoon, an Israeli airstrike targeted the town of Al-Khadr and Baalbak, where the death toll was reported to be 7 killed and 14 injured. Hezbollah announced that it had targeted a gathering of Israeli soldiers east of the town of Aitarun and in the settlements of Manara and Mizgavam. Additionally, Hezbollah targeted Israeli soldiers as they advanced at the triangle of Adayse Rab 30 and Taibe with machine guns and rockets. Israeli army radio quoted a military source saying that for the first time since the start of the war, Hezbollah fired 50 rockets at the Galili in 2 minutes. The Lebanese Ministry of Health reported that 2,574 people had been killed and 12,001 wounded since the start of the war on Lebanon. In Gaza, at least 17 people were killed in an Israeli strike on a school for displaced persons in Nusayrat in the central Gaza Strip. According to the Hamas government media office, 9 children were among those killed. Meanwhile, Civil Defense announced on Thursday that it was no longer able to continue its relief work in northern Gaza due to Israeli threats against its teams. In Gaza, the Enclave's Ministry of Health has reported 42,847 Palestinians killed since October 7. As for the diplomatic front, from Paris, French President Emmanuel Macron called for a ceasefire in Lebanon at an international conference in support of the country. The caretaker Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati was also present and declared that the monopoly on arms should be returned to the state and the Lebanese army. Also in the news, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was in Doha today for talks with Qatari officials as part of mediation efforts on Gaza. In particular, he said he expected negotiators to meet in the next few days to reach a truce. He also announced a further $135 million in aid for Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. For his part, the Prime Minister of Qatar, Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani, declared later in the day that his country had resumed contact with Hamas following the death of its leader, Yahya Sinwar. That's it for today's recap. See you tomorrow for another roundup of the situation. Until then, stay connected on our website www.thisisbeirut.com.lb and on all our social media platforms.